Dude, these coolers are, I mean, we have the stamp house, you know what I mean? That's the one thing we do have is, opposed of all these guys right here, is that we do stamp all these coolers, you know what I mean? We do have all the presses.
We're back at the 2025 SEMA Show. I'm joined here with Angel from PermaCool. Angel, what exactly is PermaCool? What do you guys do?
So we are the one of the legacy companies in the cooling industry. We started this company back in 1969, and we actually started it doing oil coolers. We're known for the oil coolers back in '69, doing the buggies. Is
that what these are right here?
That's what these are right here. So this is where this company was pretty much founded. It was start off with all the air-cooled stuff, and then we kind of diversified over the years into what it is now. And we cover pretty much a lot of industries, whether it's agriculture, industrial, and obviously the high-performance automotive market.
Right, so you have a couple different setups right here. The two that stand out, or really it's like a group that stand out and then a singular that stands out aside from that. So we've got this block looking thing, and then we've got this like tube looking thing. So can you explain what the difference between those two are?
Absolutely. So we manufacture our tube and fin coolers 100% in-house in our Riverside. We're located in Riverside County, Hemet, California. Anything to do with the tubes, the fin stock, the turbulators, all that is done in-house, our smart company, guys. If you notice, this is a patented turbulator design that we have. It's almost like a swastika, if you notice, between the two different. And the difference between the two is one agitates more than the other. As you see, the hot oil needs to pass through the turbulator, if you see right there, and it forces the oil to go through to dissipate the heat as much as possible, as opposed to just what we call our swizzle stick, that's pretty common in the industry. That's the big difference from this cooler as opposed to, say, one that's very similar like it, is this turbulator design. It does cover a lot more surface area because this forces all the oil to be agitated.
Okay, and does this design down here have the same thing, or does it work differently?
No, so it works different. This is a stack plate cooler. More the new school, a lot of the newer builds, the OE builds, they're going this way. Why they're going this way is because a lot of the engine compartments, they have limited space, and everything is not as open as it was back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, early 90s. So everybody's going with these right here because of the limited room of their engine compartments.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Oil flows through these tubes right here, right? It goes in through here, let's say, travels through, flows back, goes out through here, let's say. On this guy, it all goes in on one side, and then it goes through where? So
it'll move. You know, the flow rate, it's all different, guys, you know what I mean? So it's going to travel the path of least resistance. So you might have these stack plates cooling off more than these ones, you know what I mean? So the oil flows the path of least resistance, and it's going to go at variable flow rates. As opposed to this guy is a serpentine, so it needs to pass through the whole cooler, as opposed to this guy.
Right, so even though it takes the same square footage, let's say something comparable to the same volume, because this only has one way it can go, it always goes that way, right? Correct. And something like this, it'll have like maybe some hot spots and some cold spots.
Correct, you're absolutely correct, yes. These designs they're intended to be put in front of your radiator condenser, an area where you get the most natural ambient air. Those are the way that these coolers are made and intended for. If you don't have the room, then we do have a remote style where you put we put our fans on it. It comes with a thermo switch, and it gives the customer the ability to still have their engine oil cooler or a transmission cooler or differential cooler, whatever you want to cool. It gives you the ability to put it elsewhere. Just remember, guys, when you guys cool these things off, if they are by an exhaust system, it'll act as as heat soak. So you could actually cool, rather than cool your oil, you can actually heat it up. So it's very important where the location of the cooler is.
Okay, speaking of that, let's say you have one of these guys in the front of your engine, but is it necessary to have the fan if it's just chilling, like behind the grill or something? Do you have to have a fan on it?
No. So ideally, you want to have this in a location where it's in the front of the condenser, because the natural ambient air is going to be hitting this, and the fan will only work in those applications where you're idle. So if obviously you're idle and you want better cooling, then obviously the fan will give you that kick, you know?
Okay, let me ask you this, because we have a Jeep right behind us. So they have actually a very similar cooler to what you're running. So let's say you're running that, you're going through big old rocks off-road, and you're traveling at maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 miles an hour. At that point, is it beneficial to put a fan on it?
Absolutely, because you're very close to idle situations for that scenario.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. And for something that you drive maybe on the highway,
it's not going to do anything. The one thing about fans, guys, is that most people don't understand is that the fans are only supposed to be on at idle. So once you're going down the road at 20, let's say 20 mile an hour wind, the ambient air is going to be a lot more cooling than any electric fan is going to put out, guys.
Well, speaking of fans, you guys make the coolers, but you also make the fans, right?
Correct. We make fans for all applications, guys. Universal setups. We do have some dropping units for some vehicles, but the main stuff that we do is all universal stuff that we could pretty much provide to all industries, starting off from like a curved blade design, a little bit quieter auxiliary fan, a straight blade design standard fan, perfect for auxiliary use as you saw on the coolers over there on that side. And then we kick up to primary fans where you see you have a big thick magnet on here, and one of those little guys could probably will cool off like a big block motor in those case scenarios. I believe we're the only ones in the market that continues to make the all aluminum construction electric fans, and these guys are very popular. We have a lot more CFM opposed to, let's say, one of these guys on the right that's pretty standard in the industry. And the reason why, guys, that the CFM is a lot higher than opposed to something like this is because we put a lot more pitch on the aluminum blades. The smaller the fan is, the smaller diameter it is, the more pitch we make it more aggressive. People always wonder about that as well. How's the larger diameter fan have less CFM than a smaller one? And the reason is that the larger it is, we put less pitch, the more that the motor could take, so that's why we do that.
I understand that the pitch increases the performance of the fan. What does that do with noise?
So blade design is very important based on the motor thickness and the design of it, because of the way that it cuts the air. Our high performance fans, for instance, they're very popular, not necessarily because they're less noisy opposed to the plastic fans, but it's the way that's designed. We designed it based off of flex fan, the old school stuff that they did, and what we did is we applied the electric fan motor on it, and it's not that the decibel reading is less than the plastic ones, but the way that it cuts the air that people like. So that's a very popular model compared to the standard on there.
And in terms of life, do you think the all metal construction ones will last relatively a little bit longer than the composite style?
Motor wise, they're essentially the same because we go off of hours. So let's say some of our motors are rated about 6,500 hours. That goes pretty much across the board. The difference is like you said, the composite style, the plastic stuff, is if you have this out where it's always exposed, you have an open hood or whatnot, it is going to deteriorate over time.
I don't want to sound too repetitive, but I have one more question.
Yep.
So you've got, as you mentioned, straight fans, straight blade fans, and you've got like a curved blade fan. What is the main difference?
So the curved blade design, you actually covering, since the sweep is a lot longer, it cuts the air differently, where opposed to the straight blade is a little bit noisier but provides more CFM. It just depends on what you want to do. There's people out there that they absolutely want it quieter and they're willing to take sacrifice CFM for it, as opposed to a straight blade design where it puts there's more performance to it, but it pays a price with it.
Okay, let me ask you this. Looking at this from right to left, do you think that they get louder as we move along, or are they pretty comparable?
So they're all pretty comparable, but the differences between all of them is the difference in magnet size of the motors on there, and a lot of the stuff is people are worried about CFM, and it shouldn't really be worrying about CFM. What they should be worrying about is whether they're auxiliary fans or they're primary fans. If your fan is 2.5 inches in depth, most likely you're using an auxiliary fan, and that's with brushed motors, guys, as opposed to a 4-inch magnet, which is a primary use fan. Difference is, guys, is the duty cycle. It's not necessarily how much CFM. If you were to look at these two fans right here, there's going to be a slight difference in CFM, but the difference is that these ones will get heat soaked and the performance will fall on their face relatively quickly. So let's say 10 to 15 minutes while this one's on, this gets heat soaked. This one could be on 30 minutes at a time, and the performance, you're still getting a good 80% to 90% of the performance when you initially started it.
I think that's something that people don't really, they can't bring into perspective, because usually cooling fans on cars, they're only on a minute at a time. So they can't really quantify the main difference in the motor designs. I think that's why a lot of fan systems rely on the slimmer design, but for more hardcore applications, like let's say industrial applications, commercial applications, refrigeration, right, where they're on, you know, constantly, AC systems, the more robust, larger motors, I think that's when they really come into play. For a muscle car application, which fan would you recommend?
Here's what it is. So muscle car applications, if you wanted a primary use fan, you're gonna go with like these guys, and you're gonna go with always the biggest magnets that you could find, because you're able to, it's always the duty cycle, guys. CFM is important, but duty cycle, how long could they be on before they start losing the performance on them? You always want to go with the primary setup on those type of applications. I do understand that a lot of times, you know, you have motors that don't belong in cars, right? And you're doing the hot rodding thing, and you put a big block in a small car that doesn't belong. And so a lot of people go to auxiliary fans and they say, hey, you know what? These fans are not putting out what it says it puts out. No, if you really understand and turn on the motor at the time and give it a test run, that fan's 9 times out of 10 is going to keep up with it. Difference is, as the longer that you have that fan on and the more it gets heat soaked, the more it's going to be losing its performance. That's when you say, you know what, this fan's not cooling my car. And reason being is because you're using an auxiliary fan to try to keep up with the primary use fan.
Right, that's probably a conversation entirely on itself, because that's something that we don't really think about at all. It's usually what's the CFM number, what's the size of the fan, what fits behind the radiator. So I'm pretty sure we can have a whole discussion and with some examples down the road.
That's pretty much it, but one of the main differences here, Ernesto, is if you see, is that what makes us different opposed to a lot of the other people or competitors here is that we know everything that has to do with a cooler. For instance, you call, we know everything from the tube that's made out of, the brackets it's made out of, the fin stock, the coil that it comes out of, and if you want to make it in a hose barb or dash 6, we'll invite you back. You know, we'll show you that we have the screw machines, we have the CNCs, and we make however your application is. If you're OE, we can help you out.
All right, Angel, thank you very much for that information. Again, this was Angel at PermaCool SEMA 2025. We will see you guys all in the next one. Signing out.
Thanks, guys.